Frontline with Kortney Kenny, and I'm Tom Parisi, and today we got a great set of guests.
It's another fabulous episode of your favorite Battalion podcast, and what looks to be the only one. Hey, I'm Tom Parisi, he's Kortney Kenny. It's the Frontline podcast, and finally we're able to have this guest on our show. We've been pining for it for ages, it seems like. It's defenseman Cam Gauvreau. Cam, we are super happy to have you on the show. And I got to ask, you basically walked into camp this year and just blew them all away, whether you hit them or with your play. Tell us about you were just walking into camp like that and how it all went down for you.
Yeah, well, it's always been a goal of mine to play in the OHL. And this last summer with COVID and everything, I just took it as a chance to train and pretty much just train all the time and be as best as I can to come into camp and prove myself.
I mean, not many 10th rounders make it even past that, the draft. So what did you do? What did you say to yourself going into camp to make this team? What do I got to do?
It's just a mentality like that. It doesn't matter what round you get drafted in. You're going into camp and they don't care what round you're in. They just care if you can play or not. And if you can fit into the team. So I've always just kind of had that mentality that I didn't really care about what round I was in, and I was just going to go and play my hardest.
So during camp, one of the ways that you've obviously got on the map was you went and took a run at Brandon Coe. Now that you're his teammate, was there any awkward, hey, how's it going type of thing after that? Or especially when Liam Arnsby came after you, like right after. And did you even know it was Brandon Coe that you went after?
Yeah, I knew it was Coe. I mean, he was the only guy who was like 6'8" out there. But yeah, no, it wasn't awkward or anything. He knows I was just trying to make the team, and you got to do what you got to do. And since we're teammates now, it's all good.
Didn't we talk to Cozy about that too?
Yeah, like shortly after we had him on, and we had to ask, because this was just after it was announced that you had made like the team and signed with the team, and we were like, oh my, this guy like came at you. How do you feel? So, yeah, that's, well, and then not only that, but he's no longer. I think it was him, and he's no longer your teammate. Just getting traded. Alex Christopoulos basically dropping the gloves with him. The first day of camp. What happened there?
Too.
Yeah,
Pardon me?
Oh, dumb joke. No worries.
But what even happened there?
It was just a couple competitive guys, and I made a hit on him, and he didn't like it, and we were just competitive, and he was coming at me, and it just tempers, I guess, got the best of us.
I would say.
Is that like the only time you ever fought in practice or like at a camp like that?
No. I mean, I've never fought in practice before, but there's been training camps where I have, because I feel like training camps is the time where you have to show every part of yourself as a player. So if that's a part of your game, if that's a part of yourself, then you got to showcase it.
So after going out there, dropping the gloves, and showcasing who you are as a player, what's it like when you get called into that meeting and they tell you, okay, we're going to sign you, you're going to be a part of this team?
Oh, I was ecstatic. I was over the moon happy. It's not as awkward as you guys might think going into the room with these guys, because they understand, like, everyone's good.
Yeah,
they understand, just trying to make the team and everything. Yeah,
I mean Tom and I have thrown some punches at each other before, and it's okay, we've just buried the hatchet afterwards.
Yeah, it's like brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah,
I don't think you and I have ever fought about anything.
No, we literally have not fought about anything. It's more, oh my god, are you okay?
Oh my god, the wind from my high five nicked you awful. Are you okay? Yeah.
The only time I've ever seen Tom upset was we ordered pizza and Tom can't have dairy, and so we straight up told them this pizza cannot have cheese on it, and the pizza showed up with cheese on it, so we had to go on down to the pizza shop and get them to redo it. And that's the only time I've ever seen Tom angry.
Oh, that's funny.
But anyways, now that you're past camp and everything, and the season's been going on, you've been in and out of the lineup. But I mean, we've heard from Ty Nelson, you're one of the best teammates on the, you're a guy that's always supportive of the team. How tough is it to kind of not really play any game, but be ready when you're called upon?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough, but again, it's just a mindset that you have that you always just got to be ready to get in the lineup whenever you have the opportunity. And yeah, just work hard every day at practice, every day in the gym.
At the time of this, sorry, man, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say he's got to be 100% ready to go when you get that opportunity.
At the time of this recording, 6 games played, 14 penalty minutes. I don't know if you know this, but people in North Bay love guys like you. Love them.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
people are
I can
their favorite
tell.
player.
I can tell with the fans, like the North Bay fans are unreal. They're awesome.
We've talked to a bunch of guys who play a similar style to you in the past, and I'm wondering if the same applies to you. One of the old Battalion players we talked to, his name's Daniel Walker. Don't know if you've ever heard of the guy, but he'd always get more jazzed up about throwing a big hit or just riling up the crowd like that more than scoring goals. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, in a way, yeah. It's the crowd gets going for both, so your teammates get going. It's just yeah, an energy boost for the bench and everything.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The last time the Wolves were in town, you dropped the gloves in that game too, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously Robinson coming out of the box was already public enemy number one. But how did that kind of happen? He literally just stepped out of the box and you guys went toe to toe again. So how did that kind of take place in your mind from being on the ice?
Well, I think he knew that our team and me, like, we weren't happy with him after what he did to Sema there in the corner. And I pretty much told him. I told him that we're gonna fight next time we're on the ice together.
Like, how does a conversation like that usually go? Like, do you ever get people just like, no, I'm good, I'll pass. Thank you for asking, though.
Sometimes, I guess, yeah, sometimes, but we play them about 12 more times, so or a bunch of more times, so it probably would have happened eventually.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. But no, that was great to see, especially because the way that he what he did to Semo in the corner was pretty. I mean, not that I want to call out a guy gutless or anything, but just kind of suckering Semo in the corner. So it was good to see, someone step up, in the next moment. But you know what? The other thing that was funny about that was he got like a 7-minute penalty. So you guys had like a 7-minute power plays, and you guys scored 2 goals. So
Yeah,
that was still good too. But still, it was good to see him get. It was good to see him get beaten after that. But playing a bunch of rivalry games, where you're kind of a new guy to like the Sudbury rivalry and stuff. From the moment puck drops, do you know that this game is a bit bigger, or does it just feel like any other game?
Yeah, it definitely feels bigger when it's a rivalry like Sudbury. The fans know it too. They get extra jazzed up when stuff happens, like when we score or hits or fights or whatever it is. And yeah, you can just tell the atmosphere in the rink. It's a little bit different when we play Sudbury or a Barrie or something like that.
Are you more pumped when your teammates are excited or if the crowd gets going?
Probably the teammates, but I'm just gonna say that because you can hear your teammates more than you can hear the crowd on the ice. You can't really hear the crowd you can hear like them get loud, but you can't really hear them as well as you hear it when your teammates get fired up.
What's the craziest thing you've heard from the crowd? Perhaps directed at you.
I don't know if I've heard anything directly at me. I usually tune out the crowd when I'm on the ice.
I know when we had Nelly on, he said that he was getting chirped in Peterborough about how his hair, you could find it in the grocery store and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, definitely walking off the ice sometimes there's some fans that'll yell at us or tell us what they're thinking.
Well, I gotta ask. So brand new to the team. It's your rookie season. It's a little delayed, of course, because of COVID and everything. But
Mhm.
currently, you're one of the top teams in the league and top team in the East. So I mean, where does that feel, or how does that feel being a member of everyone's gunning for you right now?
Yeah, it's really special. It's awesome to be on a team like North Bay right now, how we're winning and how the crowd's always behind us. And yeah, obviously you want to be the best team in the league. That's the goal. And we're pretty close right now. So we're just gonna keep going.
I know last week being named in the top 10 of the CHL, what was that? What was the reaction like from the boys in the locker room type of thing? I know, talking to Ryan and Adam last week about it, they said, it's great, but it's not, they want to see it more towards the end of the season, them being in that top 10 list, not so much now. But it's great
Mhm.
anytime. But for you guys, the boys in the locker room, and then also seeing Mississauga, a team that you guys dummied the last time out, is ahead of you in that top 10 right now.
Yeah, well, we're obviously all really happy. It's a nice accomplishment, but we obviously want more. We want to be higher up, and obviously we'd like to be ahead of Mississauga, and hopefully we can do that as the year goes by. We can
Like, do
climb a
you
little
guys
higher.
pay attention to it?
Pardon me?
Do you even pay attention to it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with social media and everything, it's all really easy to see. Every time you open your phone, you see the rankings and all that. So I think, yeah, we all pay attention.
This last weekend, going through Peterborough, Kingston, Ottawa, you guys had done that road trip previous, but there was that day of rest in between. How tough is
Yeah.
that road trip when it's back to back to back like that?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. It's tiring, exhausting because you're not sleeping in your own bed. You're on the road. You're on the bus. Uh, Especially since our game in Ottawa was at 2 o'clock this time, so we played in Kingston the night before at 7, and then went to Ottawa, and then unpacked the bus back to the hotel, and then you're up early to play at 2.
I mean, that's
So
not.
it's extra.
Go ahead.
Pardon me?
Oh no.
I was just gonna say it's definitely more tiring than the day off in the previous trip.
I always find when you have to unload that bus, it's dark, it's maybe snowing out, and this is probably the last thing you guys want to do. And the worst part about it, when you unload in Ottawa, you walk across half the arena.
Yeah, that's the worst part actually. It's not like you open the doors and the dressing room's right there. You got to walk all the way around the rink. Yeah, it's brutal.
I had no idea. I didn't go this weekend, but I had gone to the Ottawa game before, and Yogi came to get me because I was talking to Uli post game, and I get down the stairs, and Macker's there packing stuff up, and he says, "Here, you can take 2 of these bags," and I was like, "Absolutely, I'll give you a hand." Then we're walking. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, where's the bus?" Like,
yeah, that's
me here.
it's a workout in itself.
Yeah, pretty much. I had no idea. Like, I had literally no idea, and I'm walking and following Mathern's in front of me, and I'm just gonna follow him because he knows where he's going. And I'm like, why haven't we stopped yet? Like, where's the bus? So
Our first time there, I made the mistake of I told the goalies, "Hey, I'll grab all your stuff. Don't worry about it. You worry about like the big trunks."
Yeah.
Of course, it looked like a pack mule walking across with these goalie pads. So these 6'4" kids on my bags and sticks. I'm like, oh, jeez. And I forgot again. I didn't know where the room was. So I'm walking across half the place, looking. Is it here? Is it here? All 2 bags, while the rest of the team did all the other work. So I know how you guys feel.
it probably took you as long as the rest of the team just to get those 2 bags. They got everything else out, and it just took you that long just to get those 2
I'm
bags.
surprised that it just stopped.
Couple water breaks.
Camp.
Yeah, it took some water breaks. Yeah. So we asked this question a lot, and it's kind of fun now that the rookies that haven't had the chance are finally starting to get into some of these ranks and stuff. The consensus seems to be Sudbury and Peterborough normally ranked towards the bottom when it comes to away rinks. But as someone who's been to both now, and not to every rink so far, but where would you put the rankings of Sudbury and Peterborough as in rinks that you've been into now in the OHL?
I think that the Sudbury one's a little bit better to play at than the Peterborough one. just
Really?
because of the boards in Peterborough. The boards are it's like a box in there. It's definitely different.
Like, I don't know why that's even there in the first place.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's,
I mean, back in the day when Belleville had a team, they had Olympic size ice.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why they just don't make everybody's rink the same. It's not a baseball
Yeah.
field.
Yeah, I feel like every rink in the league should be the exact same board, same size.
I know Sudbury's boards is like hitting concrete.
Yeah, they're hard. Mm-hmm.
That's funny because usually though Sudbury's the bottom of the list and then Peterborough is the second one, but you're the opposite where you like Sudbury a little bit more. So, but we got to ask too because it's friendly little rivalry and maybe sometimes it gets a little bit jaded and we don't like the other team. But the Wolf, what do you think of the Wolf coming out? Like that's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
It is pretty ridiculous. It kind of lightens the mood after you get scored on. You look up and see that thing dragging across the ceiling.
I feel like the last thing he wants is like dust from that wolf coming down on top of him on the bench after he's been scored on.
Yeah, really.
Well, that's good. At least it lightens the mood. Getting into your first game action though, what was it like when you finally got to, you're told you're in the lineup tonight, you're getting in, and what were the nerves like walking down the tunnel and getting out on the ice the first time?
I was really fired up. Yeah, a little nervous too. I mean, but once you get the first couple shifts under your belt, it's just like any other game. You just gotta adjust to the speed and size of the players and just play your game.
If you ever get a chance, ask your assistant coach, Billy Holder, how he felt about his first NHL shift.
I've actually talked to him about that before.
We talked to him on the podcast. One of my favorite episodes. Was it 5 seconds? He got the puck, dumped it out, and said, "Screw this! I'm getting back on the bench."
Because I think Wayne Gretzky was out with them.
Yep.
Out on that shift. Yeah, playing against Wayne Gretzky.
So
that would be something.
Yeah. Speaking of playing against Gretzky, I know Greg the Burge, the color commentator on your TV for Battalion home games. He played for Washington in the 80s, and he said one of his first shifts, he was out there against like the Curry, Gretzky, Coffey, and all those guys were out because it was like a power play. And for whatever reason, Brian Murray was the coach and had put him out and not realizing who was out there. And he said puck dropped and all he could hear from across the rink was Bob Murray or Brian Murray basically being like, "Bergie, get the F off the ice." So,
oh yeah.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine what that would be like,
I bet he got off the ice.
Oh yeah.
Did.
I'm sure when Brian Murray would be yelling at you, you'd be getting off the ice too. So
yeah.
I would not be pushing my limits with that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the 80s, maybe more so towards like, his Ottawa days. He seemed like he was a little bit more calmer, but no, not in the 80s when he was a little bit more fiery and younger.
Hothead.
Yeah.
Him and his brother.
Hey?
Terry Murray, his brother. He was pretty hot-headed too.
Yeah. Did you have did you have like an experience with Terry Murray ever? Or?
No, I just
okay.
I know both of them were really, really hot-headed and then calmed down and as they got older. Thank God.
Yeah. Who was the one that ruined the Sabres? That went to the Sabres and ruined them even worse? Wasn't that like the nephew or something? Anyways, doesn't matter. He gets like Robin Leonard from his uncle or dad Brian in Ottawa, and then ruins Robin Leonard, and Robin Leonard goes off to the Islanders. It becomes good.
I don't know. I gotta do some digging on that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of Murrays. Anyways, needless to say, I would not want to be out there against all these future Hall of Famers for my first NHL game.
No, definitely not.
If you could pick, if you were gonna lace them up, you were told you get one NHL game, you get to lace them up and choose one of the 32 NHL teams. Who would you pick?
The Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, gotta get them off the podcast.
You would play against or for Montreal?
For Montreal, against Toronto.
Yes. Okay. You got to lay down a big hit on somebody on the Leafs. Who's it going to be?
Austin Matthews.
Oh,
Well,
dagger.
he had a good run. Won't be
Yeah.
a friend of the show, but that's okay.
So, like, did you just grow up being a Habs fan type of thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, my dad's a big Habs fan, and I guess I just I followed along.
Who was his favorite player?
I don't know if he had a favorite player on the Habs. I know he liked Bob Probert,
Okay.
but yeah, it was just his team's the Habs.
So, who would be your favorite player on the Habs, or
On the
past and
Habs?
present? Past and present.
I really like Jeff Petrie.
Yeah,
Mm,
that's a
Nice.
solid option.
yeah, I think he's a really solid defenseman. He's kind of slept on a little in a sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
He had a bunch of points. You know, what was it last year? He was more of an
Yeah, I
offensive
think he
guy.
was in
all of a
the
sudden.
run for the Norris last year.
Yeah.
Mm.
So what
It's a shame
as
Edmonton got rid of him.
yeah, they literally sold him for pennies on the dollar too.
Yeah.
And then what does Edmonton need? Defense. So so as a Habs fan, then how are you taking all the stuff that's kind of happened in this past week with the Habs?
I don't know. I hope it can turn the boat around. Somewhat.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Oh my. It's been a bit of a mess for sure.
Mm-hmm. To say the least.
So you're wearing the Jays hat. Are you like one of those guys that just goes out and buys the hat, or are you actually like a baseball fan type of thing?
A bit of both, actually. I
Yeah.
went to a Jays game this summer, actually.
Yeah.
First
you see?
time in a while. They were playing Baltimore.
Oh yeah. That's
They
good.
frequently do.
At least it was probably a win because Baltimore
Yes,
sucks.
it was.
Like it's pretty crazy when the Jays finished like fourth in their division with like 91 wins. So it's just like ridiculous.
I
And then
know.
Baltimore's literally like the younger brother that everyone just beats up on in that division. Like
Oh, I don't even think it's the brother. It's just like some kid who happened to wander through school that day and he's not working out.
I actually had a
man.
Baltimore Orioles hat that I was wearing when I first came up here, and then all the boys and the coaches were chirping me for it. So I went out and bought the Jays hat.
You did the right thing.
Yeah, I think so.
That's fair. One of the guys at your TV, Clark Heupel, he flip flops between the Jays and the Orioles all the time. And I told him straight up, I was like, you can't do that. They're in the same division. I don't get it. But anyways, Cam, listen, we really appreciate you taking the time with us here today, making your first tour of duty, as Tom calls it, on the Frontline podcast. So we're looking forward to more big hits and more fights and getting to see you in the lineup a little bit more here as the season goes on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Anytime.
Have a good one.
It's part 2 of the Frontline podcast, and thanks for Cam Gauvreau making his first tour of duty with the team. We've adjusted the set on my end. Do not adjust your set if you're watching this. It's Tom in the future. No, it's my dad, Dennis Parisi, who's making a guest appearance on the show. He's in town visiting, so I figured, hey, why the heck not? He's been on a few broadcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll talk a little bit about that and shoot the breeze and see what other kind of fun stuff we get ourselves into, which usually happens, Kortney. We go off topic so often. We're getting it sponsored pretty soon.
Yeah, here's hoping.
What do you say we do our usual tours the weekend? We'll tee up some Battalion news roster wise, and then we'll jump into the weekend that is. So
Sure.
Coming off a 1-1-1 weekend, so 500 across the board against Kingston, Peterborough, and Ottawa. Ottawa being the overtime loss, Kingston a win, and Peterborough a 5-3 loss. Hey, you got 3 points, and it's better than none.
Yep. Well, you got to think about it. 3 out of a possible 6 on the road. That's pretty good.
On that kind of road trip, you heard Cam earlier in the podcast or in the episode talk about it, how it's a pain to get up that early after you've gotten to the rink, unloaded, gone back to the hotel, wound down, and get to sleep, and then you're up a few hours later. In a way, it's not fair.
No, it's kind of tough. Well, obviously you've done them.
Yeah.
and you're just on the broadcasting side. You're not,
All I do is talk.
exactly. So, yeah, it's I'm kind of glad that I'm not a player with that in that or having to deal with that. But yeah, 3 points out of the 6 on the weekend. It's not like ideal. You want to at least get 4 out of the 6, but you got 3, and it's still respectable to come home with 3. And they fared better than like usually. Talking to Adam and Ryan last week during the media availability after the top 10 had been announced, they were talking about they wanted consistency and everything. And you've seen a lot of the teams who have finished in the top or been in the top 10 really kind of peter out and fall apart right after. So the Battalion, had a really respectable weekend if we're talking about the curse of the CHL top 10, really, in that regard. So not a bad weekend, but definitely looking for more this weekend.
Exactly. And coming up, 2 teams they've beaten. I won't say handily, but, beaten pretty good. Hamilton, October 21st, they beat them 4-2. That's coming up Friday, December 3rd. So this Friday coming up in Hamilton, 7 o'clock start. And then the next night in Niagara, a 7 o'clock start on Saturday, December 4th. So 2 teams, they know how their way around. And you would expect probably at least one of them to be a win.
Well, Niagara hasn't played well at all. So you're hoping for sure that you're at least going to get 2 points there. When they beat Hamilton, actually, Hamilton was in the top 10 as well, and they were undefeated on the season at that point. So, excuse me, that game was probably one of the most fun. Well, I mean, the season's been pretty fun in general, but that was one of the most fun I've had at a Battalion game in a long time. Because as you remember the before times when games weren't so fun. So that was definitely a fun game against Hamilton. And then the game against Niagara, you can tell head coach Ryan Houlihan wants more, because they were up 4-0 after the first. We talked about this on the last week's episode. They were up 4-0 after the first, and then the final 40 minutes they played a tied 3-3 game with Niagara. So Uli not being necessarily, he's happy with the win and everything, but you could tell talking to him post game that he expects more out of his club. So I'm sure they're looking to at least put it away a lot easier. Well, it's tough to say put it away a lot easier when the final score is 7-3. So
I'm sure he'd love another 4-0 first period. I mean, yeah. But after that, you got to, hammer down, keep the pedal down, and then don't let it get to you. Don't let them catch up.
No, exactly. And just because we're not going to be making the trip this weekend, but Tom, you always told me that Hamilton had one of the more fun press boxes to get into. So
yeah, we've talked about this in old episodes, but to recap, it's up on the 4th floor of the First Ontario Center, Cops Coliseum, if you're a little older. And it's an NHL-sized rink, but they curtain off most of the upper bowl. I don't know if they've even cleaned it in years. But yeah, you got to go to the 4th floor, which is the top of the building. So you call it whatever floor you want. But yeah, and if you don't catch the one elevator that goes up, you got to go up the thinnest, darkest, scariest staircase in the world, where there's a gentleman or woman, I've had both, waiting for you at the top to make sure like your press badge and ID. And then you have to walk along the diamond graded floor, which you can see down through to the press box. And there's stairs on that too. You got to navigate. It kind of arcs. So you got to watch where you step because you could trip. It's a lot of fun.
It's funny because I just saw a video of like the trip up to the Calgary Flames press box, like on Twitter. And it's like kind of like that idea. And I was just thinking of, oh, well, they're going to Hamilton this week. This will be a good topic for the podcast because Tom's done it in Hamilton.
Well, luckily, most of the walls are either enclosed, like it is a cage, or they've got mats on the walls or tall enough walls. If you're, if you're about 6 foot tall, like I am, it's not bad. But there is one spot where all the lights are connected and speakers and goal horn and stuff, and one camera above the goals, I guess. It has like 3 foot walls. And by walls, I mean scaffolding.
Nice.
And one of the video guys dared me to do it once, and I did do it. I did walk across that, which is against the rules. But I did do it.
You're lucky that you were still allowed to go on the road.
Yes. That's why I'm talking to you 5 years after it happened. Statute of limitations is over.
This podcast has really become the place of where we talk about things that we probably shouldn't have done, but we've done, like me going out on the ice when they won the East. So
True. But yeah,
Anyway.
and then Niagara's fine. Niagara's just a weird place because you're off to one side.
yeah.
So it's tough to catch. If you're looking at the rink on TV, the left-hand side's way further away than the right-hand side.
Okay. Well, it's a brand new almost brand new building. So
Well, you need key card access to get up there, which of course I don't regularly have. So you got to wait for an attendant, which doesn't come by too often.
no, I can imagine.
And at the end of the game, everybody goes up instead of down because it's a catwalk to get back to like your parking and stuff. And it's up above the rink, above the normal exit. So I'm trying to plow through like thousands of people with my suitcase full of equipment, my backpack, my bag full of notes and such. And I'm like, I could theoretically just like jump down and land on a bunch of people and just walk through and be fine. But you kind of hold yourself to one side and try not to get trampled.
Okay, fair enough. But we have some more news to get through, of course.
Yes. So we'll jump into the roster stuff. Josh Curry.
Yep.
Suspended 2 games for a slew foot. Take us through it.
Yeah, so all you can hope is that Josh kind of learns his lesson from this, because slew foot is definitely something you don't want to see. I mean, we're seeing at the NHL level, Brad Marchand's being suspended right now for it. He's a little bit more of a repeat offender.
Yeah, jinx.
Well, okay, I guess I'm done talking.
Kortney. There.
Thank you. Okay, so anyways, yeah, so yeah, and then also you see all the memes online of PK Subban. They're starting to call him PK Sluban. So when you start to pick up a nickname like that, it's probably time to try and get back to how you used to play as opposed to that. Slew footing's dangerous. It really is when you boil it down to when it boils down to it. It's a very dangerous act for a player. So I remember in his rookie season, Paul Christopoulos was suspended once or twice for it. And I talked to him after the season. I said, just kind of learn your lesson. He says, yeah, I hope so. And he is yet to do it this year. So hopefully Josh can take this 2-game suspension. He'll sit out the weekend. Rodion Tatarenko is making his Battalion debut, assumingly this weekend. They posted a picture of his jersey. He will be wearing number 20 from the Possum Voodoo. So he's going to be out, and that's not the only forward that's going to be out of the lineup, Tom.
No, Alex Christopoulos, we're sticking with that theme as I hit my computer. He was traded.
Yes.
He was traded to the Windsor Spitfires for a 5th-round pick in 2025. And I think it just came down to numbers, quite honestly. I know they were very excited to get him a few years ago in the draft, and he had a pretty solid rookie season. But overall, this year he found himself lower in the lineup. And I think maybe a better change of scenery where he can play higher up, more meaningful minutes is going to make all the difference for him.
I really hope so, because Alex is a great kid. We've had the two
Agreed.
of them on the podcast before, and they're both pleasant young men. And when you finish that season that year, Alex is probably, outside of Kyle Jackson, the most impressive rookie, because out of his 12 goals, I want to say he scored 10 of them from the month of February to the shutdown and COVID.
And a lot of 5-on-5 goals too.
Yeah, and he was impressive. And you heard about him. One of the stories Adam told me when I was writing up an article about it was that he used to stay late after practice and have the coaches basically, put a band around him and hold on to him while he tried to skate down the ice. And then once he started kind of working out for him, you saw all the players lining up after practice to kind of do the same thing. So, I wish Alex nothing but the best in playing for the Spitfires. It's a respectful, or it's a very highly respected organization in the league. So he's going to land on his feet, I think, and do pretty well, hopefully, in Windsor. And it's going to be interesting. At least on the bright side, we can tell which one is which now. And unless for whatever reason Alex stays and Paul goes down and plays a big practical joke on us. But
I don't think I know the difference.
No, honestly, me neither. There's actually an ad for Burger World right now where they're in it. And they have their names come up, and then they had to switch the names. It's like the joke is we can't tell either. So they flip flop the names. But on the bright side, we could tell which one's which now. So, and we won't be seeing Alex at all. Well, you might be in the Sioux, but we won't be. We won't be here in North Bay. We won't be seeing Alex this season.
Exactly. But we wish him all the best, and we'll have to catch up with him next time we see him driving through town with the Spitfires.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so part 3, I suppose. My dad's here.
Yes.
And he's been he helped me call a few games. The first and second
5,
season.
he's saying.
5. So yeah,
you could say he's friend of the CCAP broadcast no more, unfortunately, but was by our standards, he was friend of the broadcast.
2 Sudbury games. No, 2 Peterborough games, 2 Sudbury games, and a Barrie game.
Bingo.
Right? Yes.
Yep.
And
attended many North Bay games.
yeah, and he was in the stands for a lot of them too, especially here in the Sioux. He's been to a fair few, but I don't know. Did you have fun?
Of course, I had fun. Great time. I miss it. Wouldn't mind doing it again.
Well, you know what? We're always looking for people on the broadcast. So anytime you're making your way through North Bay, pop on
It
in.
was a good time.
It is always a good time.
It's hard to keep up with Tom because he's so good at what he was doing when calling the game.
Oh shit.
He'd see more than I would, and I was looking specifically for things to talk about when he wasn't. So it was hard, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I was getting better by the 5th game.
Yeah, it definitely takes some time to figure it out, but I mean, I remember doing some of the games with you when I was in the doing intermissions in the CCAT studio, and I mean,
yeah,
you were pretty good for somebody that had no background.
You got to tell the story about the first time you guys met.
All right, so I still hold it against him to this day every time I see him. So I had been sick for a good while, and this was pre-COVID, so no one cared. And my voice had gone, and basically we had told Bob Coles on the broadcast, try to throw to me as little as possible. Like, I'm still here, but my voice is shot.
Bob ignored that directive.
Bob did ignore that directive for sure. He would throw to me all the time, and I'd be like,
Kortney, what's going on down there?
Bob, I'm dying. I sound like I've smoked 3 packs of cigarettes today, Bob. Like,
all right, Kortney, we'll come back to you soon.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, so I didn't sound that great. So I got to keep it family friendly. I can't say exactly what it wasn't necessarily an awful thing.
No swearing, was it?
No, there wasn't any. In my recount there is, but there definitely wasn't. So I get to the gardens, and Tom and I get in the elevator, and Tom's dad's with him, and Tom's like, "Oh, by the way, this is my dad." And I'm like, "Oh, hi, pleased to meet you." He's like, "Oh, you're Kortney. You sound awful." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, man."
Good to meet you.
Yeah, like, hi. Like,
let's be
just being honest.
Let's be
I
friends.
mean, to be fair, I did sound awful, and getting to know you a little bit afterwards. At least that wasn't my one and only interaction with you, because I would have been like, Tom's dad's a dick. So
it's one of my favorite stories. But I mean, along those lines of being sick, we did a game in Sudbury together where you came up and I was sick as a dog, and the whole team was. And I think I had you running down the broadcast ladder.
Oh no!
To get me Kleenex
and water,
and I think Halls. At some point, you produced lozenges. I don't know from where, but you had them.
It's quick thinking.
And,
married to a nurse,
Oh my god! I napkins, Kleenex, paper towel, anything you could use to blow your nose was hurled in my direction for 3 periods.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So hooray for you! Didn't do much color commentating that game.
No, that's fantastic though. Maybe I gotta bring like my mom with me on the road or anything when I go.
She would love that.
Yeah, she would. She would for sure. She probably wouldn't care for the hockey. She'd just be there to go and, you want a drink? You want something else? I'll go get that. But the cruel part is, because we've talked about it before, is the fact that going up and down that ladder stair thing. That's the cruel part of that story.
Did they not add plexiglass at one point somewhere? I thought, like underneath.
Yeah. There still is plexiglass, I believe. I mean, I'm not really looking at the plexiglass, to be honest, but yeah, it's like underneath, like where you can't stick your foot through.
Yeah.
how you would on like a ladder. They put
That
that
didn't
inside.
exist when we did that.
No,
That was the craziest ladder to get up and down.
The death trap.
Yeah.
it is. And like we've talked about it before many times where I've been like, it's a ladder disguised as a staircase. Because you get up to it and you're like, oh, it's stairs, and then you're like, and then you get on it, you're like, these are not stairs. Like,
You know what we always forget to talk about is there was a locked gate at the top of it.
yeah, really?
And if you didn't have the key or you got to the ring too early, now you have to go back down with all your equipment straddled on the back you like some kind of camel
Oh no.
and go back down backwards. It's
So the game that we did in Sudbury this year, we should probably invest in a suitcase or something because we don't have a suitcase. So we had to carry up my desktop tower,
God.
a monitor, a mixer, and a bag full of all our cables. So that was a lot of fun. Good thing it wasn't just me by myself, but so I can sympathize now being like, oh yeah, I can only imagine carrying up that suitcase up and down that ladder, but now I can really sympathize.
The suitcase weighs about what? 20, 25 pounds?
Yeah.
Little Seacat suitcase, the gray one.
Yep.
I'd say that's about that.
Yeah.
It had so many cables in it. It had the unit. It had the headsets, the microphone, wireless microphones. It had a whole bunch of stuff in it.
Yeah.
And I used to pack it with extra stuff just in case. But
Well, you never know. Like I remember the first game of your second year, it was in Sudbury, and they had changed like the whole setup or whatever, because then we couldn't get going until like halfway through the first period.
I was running around the rink trying to find the guy who was in charge of that. He didn't know what was going on. And whilst I did my patrol of the rink frantically, I had plugged the internet cable in just to see what happened. And by the time I got back, it had magically fixed itself.
Yeah.
And
That's such
every
a
other
great
team after
experience.
that had issues with that particular setup.
We had issues with that.
We had constant issues.
with that.
So in their media box right now, I prefer a hardwired connection.
Yes.
You know, especially when you're streaming, you kind of want it to be hardwired so that way it's not gonna, stop. So they have it like all right over top. They have the wire like wrapped around this pole, and then it comes down and you can plug it in. Didn't get any internet connection, and then when we did, it would ask for a password and blah blah blah. Naturally, the media guy's nowhere to be seen in the media booth.
Or the media center.
Yeah, why would that make any sense? So thankfully, Tom Mercier, the the color commentator, but he was doing play-by-play that game for their radio broadcast, who was right next to us in the booth, was like, oh, here's the password to the Wi-Fi that we use, because that doesn't work for us either. And I'm like, that's pretty sad when the home broadcast has to use their Wi-Fi because they have no idea what they're doing.
You run into that a lot, unfortunately. But I remember another game we did in Peterborough, the second one. Dad drove up from Toronto to go and do it. And it's the first game and only game I ever ate before I went on the air.
Yeah, you never did.
Freaking mistake that was. Do you remember? I think it was you and friend of the show, regardless if he's never been on, Cody Belanger, did the game, and I had the worst stomach.
Yeah, you were telling us about this a couple of podcasts ago.
Yeah. And I remember, I think Dad was probably pooping bricks himself in a different way, because he was the only person live at the game with a headset for a little while.
Gotta improvise. Do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Well, one thing, I'll get your take on it. It's harder to be a color commentator than people think.
Oh God, yeah.
Why?
Because you're constantly trying to figure out what to talk about to fill in the gaps and to make sense.
Yes.
And you're trying, and instead of watching the game like you would normally watch a game, you're looking for something to talk about. So you're trying to focus on one particular player or something like that. So you have something meaningful to say in order to give the play-by-play operator, commentator, time to rest his voice a little bit, to fill it in. And it was not easy. We started together. We did a few rock games together.
We did do some Timmins Rock games back in the day.
And then that helped get nearer. But I'd be there with all these papers trying to figure out who the players were, and Tom knows them all by heart. He's amazing at he'd go to a game and no paper in hand at all, and he could call the whole game and not get a name wrong.
Lots of nights staying up figuring that out.
Just for the record, Timmins Rock is a taboo subject on this podcast. We do not talk about the Timmins Rock. No, I'm just kidding.
We talk about them all the time. No, we'd actually.
I seen the player that's going up from Powassan that's going up to North Bay to play.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, I watched him play against the Rock a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
yeah,
He got a goal. He was hard to stop. He's a big boy.
I think
inside look.
one of his first games was
lots of hits.
early. One of his first games in Powassan was up in Timmins earlier in the season. He scored like a hat trick or 4 goals in that game or something, like ridiculous, including the overtime winner. But no disrespect to Timmins, I got to make my way to a game because I keep hearing that the Mac's a gorgeous place to go to a game. So
Maybe not gorgeous, but a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And the Rock have a decent. They're in first place, so we got a pretty good team this year.
wow,
Extra
see about that.
taboo.
Yeah, we'll see about that. We should have Chris Dawson on with your dad sometime.
No, I feel like Dawson will somehow jump through the screen and strangle us both.
It's between Powassan and Timmins right now. They're neck and neck.
That seems to be the way every single time. And then Hearst and Cochrane are just kind of there in Kirkland Lake and French River. French River has a good squad this year, though. For once.
Goalie's solid.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So back to the Peterborough game with you not having good stomach. What was the resolution on that?
Luck.
Get it through.
So it was the second period, and during the commercial break, I told you guys, be ready in case I'm not out of the washroom
in time.
And I made it back. I left as I was like, okay, we're going to break. I sound like an auctioneer. I ran, and luckily in Peterborough, the bathroom is right outside the broadcasting booth.
Yeah.
Right outside across the door. So I ran, had my business meeting, and I got out with 2 minutes to spare. Like we were coming, like the refs were skating.
Nice.
And then we drove separate home from the bus, which is a scary ordeal because the bus at least has a bathroom.
We didn't drive home. We drove to Barrie, I think, for the next game, wasn't it?
No, we went back. We went back to North Bay after.
All the way from Peterborough.
We did Barrie twice.
No, I don't think so. It was too many years ago.
It's a little while back.
In my golden years.
Yeah. Well, we've done that before, but it was just a Sudbury road trip. You would come back with me on in my
It was
car.
faster. I mean, I didn't have to wait for the bus to load or for the kids to meet parents or friends or whatever after the game or load the bus. And now I sound like I'm trying to escape the situation. But we just got home sooner. That's all.
His biggest worry was getting back and hoping his car was still in the parking lot and it would start.
Yes. I don't know why, but it was so cold that winter.
Well, there were a few times where I get a text message from Tom being like, "Can you check in on my car this weekend while I'm gone?"
Well, yeah, I'd leave you the keys. And remember the one time it didn't start?
Yep.
It was like minus 37. We were coming back home from like Oshawa, I think. And you had started it that afternoon and it was fine.
Yeah.
And when I got there, I hit the remote start as soon as the bus was passing by the parking lot. I'm thinking, they made the proper beeps. I'm in the clear, because from my place up by the airport at the time to the arena, it was like a 5-minute drive.
Yeah.
And I get there, I hop in the car, all the lights turn on. I'm like, yay, all right. I'm like, crap. Yeah. So I called you because you said you'd give me a hand because you didn't live far away from the rink at the time. But it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
And it was butt loving cold. And I was trying to do my thing. I was in like suit wear, so I'm not exactly warm. So I opened up the hood, and Adam Dennis, assistant coach at the time, and now apparently savior, came over and said, "Tom, do you need a boost?" I said, "Yes, please." Small dig, he did not turn his car off. So there was like a big shock when I connected to the things.
Yeah.
But that's okay. My car started, and then I told you It was good. Did you end up coming out too?
I didn't end up making it there.
No, right. So then to keep the battery kind of just happy, I drove to Callender after the game just to get the car going. But yeah, that was a fun 45 minutes.
The things you do when you're on the road.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. We get a call from Tom a lot of times on his way back. We'd be talking to him he was on the bus and he's hoping his car would start.
Or hoping we could watch a movie on the way back.
I heard that didn't happen often, but anyways.
It did not. It was mostly sleep. It's really tough to take apart a Swiss chalet chicken at the time in the dark. So that's a lot of that took a lot of focus.
Yeah, I can imagine. I still remember one of our conversations while we used to go and walk around the rink during warm up. I remember being like, "Oh, what'd you guys have to eat on the road?" And you were like, "Oh, it was chicken parm," and I was like, "You can't eat dairy." So
how are you alive?
Yeah, well, you were like, "I had chicken parm without the parm." I'm like, "So you had chicken?"
I did. Actually, I had that twice in Peterborough. Was chicken parm without the parm. That was exactly what it was. It was good.
I think that's funny. That's really good.
No, they took care of me. God bless them. I put Adam Dennis through hell on that first year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wasn't sad to see you go.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't.
Oh well. Now we can call him.
Anyway.
Yeah, now we can call him friend of the show, so it's all good.
Yeah.
But anyways, Tom, what do you say we wrap her up for another week?
Of course, we say thank you to Cam Gauvreau for joining us in the first part. My dad, Dennis, for the second part. And if you're listening to this on your TV, you can watch part 2 of it, or at least listen to it, the whole episode, on YouTube. You can catch us on Google Podcast, Apple Music, Spotify. Be sure to follow us on social media. Check out the Battalion home games as well. We are broadcasting live on YouTube with a whole host of characters you don't want to miss, including the legendary Bob Coles, who's always a favorite. He gets friend of the show status regardless. And a thank you to Ben Sargent for being our awesome, intrepid producer as always, for making it sound fantastic. And be sure to follow your battalion on social media as well, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and everything else in between. He's Kortney Kenny. I'm Tom Parisi. And another Tour Duty complete on the Frontline podcast. This was a lot of fun. Let's do it again sometime.